Hello, my dear students. Welcome to all of you, dear learners. I'm Ron Kisku, a teacher of St.Philip High School and College. Dear learners, let's see some phrases and try to find out the topic for today. Okay, we will see some phrases now. First phrase is group of words. Can you think of the topic for this phrase? Then the second phrase is subject and verb combination. Then third phrase is complete thought. It will have a complete thought. Okay. Then you can see meaningful. The group of words must be meaningful. So, dear learners, what can you imagine from this? What phrases? What can you imagine? Let's guess the topic. So, dear learners, let's guess what may be the topic for today. Let's see. Dear learners, the topic for today is the sentence. We will learn today sentence and their classifications, and this is class number 2, and this class is for class 7 and English second paper. Okay, so let's go ahead. Dear learners, first I would like to tell you the learning outcomes of today's class. Dear learners, by the end of the class, you will be able to learn what? You will be able to define sentence with characteristics. Okay, you will be able to define sentences with characteristics. Then the second outcome is you will be able to classify sentences. Then you will be able to grasp the sentence structures. Okay, sentence structures. Then you will be able to use sentences in your daily activities. We must use English sentences in our daily activities. So, the last outcome of today's lesson is to use sentences in our daily activities. Okay, dear learners, let's go forward. Now, the question is, what is a sentence? The first question as a quiz. So, what is a sentence? Let's see. Sentence. What is a sentence? A sentence will have a group of words. Okay, you must remember, a sentence must have a group of words. Then, a sentence will have a subject and verb combination. Okay, subject-verb combination. Then, a sentence will have a complete thought. Remember, a sentence must have a complete thought. Then, a sentence, an English sentence must have a meaning so that the readers can understand you, what you are talking about. Okay, so a sentence, an English sentence must have a meaning. Okay, so dear learners, let's see the example. Beautiful girl is the. Can you guess what kind of sentence is it? Or is it right or wrong? Let's see. This is not a sentence because this has no subject-verb combination. It has no meaning. It doesn't have complete thought. This sentence doesn't have a group of words. It has a group of words, but the arrangement is not correct. So, we can't say it a sentence. Then, the girl is beautiful. That means the sentence is correct because we have a subject-verb agreement. We have a group of words. We got a complete thought, and this group of words has a meaning and it's meaningful. That's why we are able to call it a sentence. Okay, then you see, the girl is beautiful. The girl is beautiful. So, dear learners, we will have 4 types of sentences. Okay, first, assertive or declarative sentences. Then, imperative or command, request, wish, etc. Then, we will have exclamatory sentence. Okay, then these are the classifications of sentences, basic classifications according to meaning. Okay, let's see the definition of sentence. The learners, a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. You remember, a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. A sentence must have a subject and verb combination, but it may or may not have an object. You remember it. A sentence must have a subject and verb, but it doesn't have or may or may not have an object. It may have an object or it may not have an object. It doesn't matter whether the object is present or not. But if a group of words is a sentence, it must have a group and it must have a meaning. It will complete the thought. It means the group of words. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now we will see the classifications of sentences, kinds of sentences. Dear learners, we can divide sentences in two ways. Okay, you remember, we can divide the sentences in two ways. The first, according to meaning, we can divide the sentences as per meaning, and on the other hand, we can divide the sentences as per their structures. Dear learners, today we will discuss the kinds according to meaning. Okay, we will discuss today the kinds are according to what? Meaning. So let's see the types. Sentence. A sentence. First types of sentences, assertive, or we can call it declarative sentences, as you know. I'm sorry. Okay. Then the second types of sentences is imperative sentences, imperatives. Okay. Then imperative sentences, you can see the sentence that expresses commands, request, advice, wish, and prayer, etc. So the sentences that can express commands, request, advice, wish, etc. is called imperative sentence. Okay. Then interrogative sentences. Let's see, what is an interrogative sentence? The sentence that asks questions. Okay, you remember the sentence, the group of words that can ask questions will be called imperative or interrogative sentences. Then exclamatory sentences. You are well known with this one, exclamatory sentences. Let's see what are they. The learners, the sentence that expresses strong feelings, that means sudden feelings. The sentences, the words or the phrases that are able to express our sudden feelings will be called exclamatory sentences. So dear learners, we saw the classifications and definitions of sentences according to meanings. Okay, let's go ahead and let's see some examples of the sentences. First, we will see the examples of assertive sentences. Okay, and let's pointing out the sentence topics. Why do we call it assertive? Let's see. The first, makes a general statement. Assertive sentences make a general statement or assertion. Then it means assertive sentence begins with a capital letter. Okay. Then assertive sentences ends with a periodic mark. Let's see the example. The first example is, you can see on the screen. We should eat green fruits every day. We should eat green fruits every day. So, and the second example, you can see many people are fishing in the pond. Many people are fishing in the pond. The learners, let's see the structure. The structure is like this. First, you will have to put a subject, then transitive verb or tense verb. We can call it tense verb. Okay, remember it. Then object or complement with extension. So, dear learners, you can see in both sentences that the sentence began with a capital letter. Okay, capital letter, as you can see on the screen. Then it ends with a periodic mark. You can see on the screen. Okay, so assertive sentences must make a general statement or assertion. And then let's see the second one, interrogative sentences. We will see now the examples of interrogative sentences. What are the interrogative sentences? Ask a question and begins with an auxiliary or helping verb or with WH word. You must remember it. Then it ends with a question mark. So dear learners, interrogative sentences begins with a helping verb, auxiliary verb or WH word and ends with a question mark. Let's see the examples. The first example is, am I a good student? Okay, the first example is, am I a good student? A student is thinking about herself. Okay, then the second example is, how are my friend? That means there is a little mistake, that how are my friend? Where are you going? Okay, and let's see the what characteristics. It will begin with auxiliary verb as stated above. Then it will end with a question mark. So dear learners, we understood that interrogative sentences begins with a helping verb, auxiliary verb, and sometimes it will begin with a WH word and end with a question mark. Okay, as you can see on the screen. And let's see the examples. And here is a note that interrogative sentences have two types of structures. Let's see the structures. The first type is auxiliary or helping verb, then subject, then main verb as per tenses. As per tenses, then object or complement with extension. And the second type of structure is WH word, auxiliary verb, subject, main verb as per tense, and object or complement with extensions. So, dear learners, these two are the structures of interrogative sentences. You must note down it. Then we will see the example of imperative sentences. Let's see. Expresses commands, request, advice, wish or prayer. Imperative sentences are such sentences that can express our commands, request, advice, wish or prayer. Okay, you remember it. Then begins with a verb. Dear learners, you must remember that imperative sentences begins with a verb, then ends with a periodic mark or ends with a periodic mark only. Okay, let's see the example. The first example is, don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Then the second example is, catch the ball carefully. Okay, as you can see on the screen. And the third example is, may God bless you. The first example begins with a verb. Okay, negative with verb. And the second one begins with a verb. And the third one is son. And you can see the sentences sometimes ends with a mark of exclamation and periodic mark. Okay, and let's see the structures. The structure of an imperative sentence is, it will begin with a verb, base form of the verb, and then object with extensions. So, dear learners, this is the structure of an imperative sentence. Now, there is another structure of imperative sentences is may plus subject plus verb, base form plus object. So, dear learners, we use two types of structures to represent imperative sentences. Okay, to represent our command, request, advice or wishes. Okay, let's go ahead. Now, we will see the examples of exclamatory sentences. The learners, exclamatory sentences express our sudden feelings. Okay, sudden feelings, and begins with an interjections. Sometimes exclamatory sentences begins with an interjections, sometimes with what or how. Then it ends with a mark of exclamation. The learners, remember that exclamatory sentences end with a mark of exclamation. So now let's see the example. Dear learners, the first example is, shit, I have lost everything. Okay. Then the second example is, what a beautiful scenery it is. As you can see the image at left. Okay. Now, the third example is, wow, it's delicious. Okay, so dear learners, in the first example, you can see shit, a word that is expressing our sudden feelings. Shit. Okay, then in the second sentence, you can see what, as I have stated that begins with an interjections, or sometimes it will begin with what or how. What a beautiful scenery it is. And in the third one, you can see that the sentences ends with a mark of exclamation. If the interjection is used to express our certain feelings, the mark of exclamation will be used with that word. Okay. And in the second sentence, you can see the sentence ends with a mark of exclamation. In the third sentence, you can see wow is a interjections that is expressing our certain feelings. Okay, let's see the structures. Dear learners, exclamatory sentence has two types of structures. The first one is interjection plus mark of exclamation plus subject plus verb plus object or complement. And the second structure is like this: what or how plus object or complement plus subject plus verb. Then finally we use mark of exclamation. So dear learners, these two are the structures of exclamatory sentences. So dear learners, I hope we understood what are sentences according to meaning. Okay. So dear learners, thank you all for being with me, and thank you very much.